So, what happens when fear stops being just a simple scare and starts running your life? Well, today, we're going to dive right into the world of phobias. And more than that, we're going to uncover a kind of map, a science-backed map that can actually lead someone out of that maze of intense fear.
The world shrinks. Avoidance becomes central to life, and the phobia is not only perpetuated, but it can become increasingly fearful and more psychologically overwhelming. Man, that really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's this vicious cycle. The more you avoid something you're afraid of, the bigger and scarier that fear gets, and your whole world just keeps getting smaller and smaller.
But what if there was a way out? A map to find your way through it all? I mean, that's the big question, right? For anyone feeling completely trapped by this kind of intense fear, is there a real, reliable way back? And the answer from science is a huge, resounding yes.
Okay, to make this all feel a bit more real, let's meet Anna. Now, Anna's story is what we'd call a composite, kind of inspired by real case studies like Zach's from our source material. She has agoraphobia, which is a fear of open or unfamiliar places, and her world is just shrinking. She's trapped. She can't go where she wants or even where she needs to go.
And this right here, this is the thought that's just on a constant loop in her head. What if I get trapped and can't breathe? See, it's not just some fuzzy worry. It's a specific, terrifying story that feels 100% real to her. And that is the engine driving her to stay home, keeping her totally isolated.
So this is Anna's map. And I want to be super clear here. We're talking about evidence-based interventions. This isn't about some fringe idea or pseudoscience. We're talking about treatments that have been put through the ringer, rigorously tested, peer-reviewed, and scientifically proven to be effective. This is really the gold standard.
All right, first stop on the map. We've got to calm the body's alarm system. Think about it. Before Anna can even begin to work on her anxious thoughts, she has to find a way to quiet that blaring physical panic alarm that's going off inside her.
One of the first tools in the biological toolkit is a class of drugs called benzodiazepines. The simplest way to think about them is that they help out your brain's natural chill-out chemical, which is called GABA. So they don't invent calmness out of thin air. They just boost the stop or slow down signals that are already there, making your brain less likely to just spiral into a panic.
So what's actually happening inside your head? Well, when you're anxious, your brain is basically on red alert. Everything's firing. The fight or flight system is in total overdrive. But with the help of a benzodiazepine, that hyperexcitability gets dialed way, way down. The alarm gets quieter, and that creates the mental space you need to actually relax.
You've probably heard of some of these, like Valium or Xanax. For someone like Anna, these can be a lifesaver in a short term, right? Maybe to get through a doctor's appointment she absolutely cannot miss. But, and this is a huge but, it's so important to see them for what they are, a temporary patch, a Band-Aid. They are not a long-term solution.
And this quote really spells it out. Benzodiazepines treat the symptoms and not the cause of anxiety. Once medication is stopped, symptoms may return if the underlying cause has not been addressed. That is the absolute key. They mask the symptoms, they don't fix the problem. So once you stop taking them, if you haven't done the deeper work, that fear is probably coming right back.
So that brings us to a much more sustainable tool, breathing retraining. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. You see, when we panic, we start to take these short, shallow breaths. We hyperventilate. And what's wild is that this actually messes with the chemistry in our blood, which makes us feel more panicky and dizzy. It's a horrible feedback loop, and breathing retraining is designed to smash it.
And the technique itself is something you can do right now. You hold your breath, then you breathe in and out slowly on about a 6-second cycle. As you breathe out, you just say relax to yourself. You just keep doing that until the anxiety starts to fade. By consciously taking control of her breath, Anna is sending a direct message to her nervous system that says, hey, stand down, we're okay. This isn't a pill, it's a skill, something she can own and use anytime, anywhere to get back in the driver's seat.
Okay, so Anna now has some tools to handle the physical side of panic. The alarm isn't so loud anymore. Now, it's time for the deeper work, rewiring the very thoughts that set off the alarm. And that brings us to the psychological approach.
And the superstar player here is Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, or CBT.
Now, CBT is less about digging into your childhood and more about what's happening right now. It's super practical. The whole idea is to pinpoint the specific thoughts and behaviors that are keeping you stuck, and then, very methodically, work on changing them. Let's look at CBT in action. On the left, you have that anxious thought. The elevator's gonna break and I'll suffocate. It feels like a fact. But CBT teaches you to be a detective, so you challenge it. Wait a minute, there are air vents, there's an alarm button. Have I ever actually heard of this happening to someone? You see? By questioning the thought, you're not just letting it run wild. You're treating it like a theory that needs proof, not a command you have to obey.
Okay, a huge part of CBT for phobias is something called systematic desensitization. And the logic behind it is just so brilliant and simple. It is physically impossible for your body to be relaxed and panicked at the exact same time. So the goal is to slowly, carefully retrain your brain to connect that thing you fear with a feeling of calm instead of terror.
And the process is incredibly methodical, which is why it works. First, you get really good at a relaxation skill, like that calm breathing we talked about. Next, you build what's called a fear hierarchy or a fear ladder. You literally list out what scares you, from a little bit scary all the way up to terrifying. Then, you start at the very bottom rung of that ladder, and you don't move up until you can face that step while staying totally calm. This is what makes it so manageable. If you have a snake phobia, you're not going to start by holding a python, right? No way. You might start by just looking at a picture of a snake in a book. That's it. Once you can do that without freaking out, you move to the next step. Each one is designed to be a small win, building your confidence and literally rewiring that fear response bit by bit.
And the proof is right here in the data. This study looked at dental phobia. Look at the group that just got medication. Their anxiety went down, sure, but then it shot right back up. But the group that did systematic desensitization, their anxiety went down and it stayed down. Why? Because they didn't just borrow relief from a pill. They built real, lasting skills.
But here's the thing. This whole journey is not a solo mission. It can't be. The final and honestly super critical piece of this map involves the people in Anna's life, her support system. And that brings us to the social approach.
This is where something called psychoeducation comes in, and it's a total game changer. It's not about putting the family through therapy. Think of it more like giving them an instruction manual. It teaches them what the phobia is, how the treatment works, and, this is the most important part, how to actually help, instead of accidentally making things worse by, say, encouraging avoidance.
And this quote is just a perfect example of what good support looks like in practice. The mother stays calm. She acknowledges the worries. She doesn't just say, "Oh, that's silly." First, she validates the feeling. Then she gently challenges the distorted thinking behind it, reminding her daughter that anxious thoughts are not always facts. She becomes a partner in the process, not someone who accidentally enables the fear.
So after all this, where is Anna? Well, she isn't cured. That's not really the right word, and it was never the goal. She's empowered. That's the key. She has a whole toolkit now, biological, psychological, and social strategies she can pull out whenever fear shows up. Her world isn't shrinking anymore. For the first time in a long time, it's actually opening back up.
And that really leaves us with a pretty mind-blowing final thought. What we've just walked through, it's a powerful demonstration that our brains can change, that our deepest, most hardwired fears are not set in stone. So the question to leave you with is this. If we can systematically and consciously retrain our response to fear, what else are we capable of reshaping inside our own minds?